What if the real competitive advantage in transport refrigeration isn't a lower price, but uptime, durability, and knowing what's happening inside the box in real time? Welcome to Industry Ignited, the podcast where we sit down with leaders transforming industrial markets through innovation and execution. I'm your host, Dr. 𝐏𝐚𝐿𝐼, and today I'm joined by Marcos de Paula, CEO of Frigo King and Power Mobile in Brazil, companies specializing in transport refrigeration and energy solutions for refrigerated containers. Marcos, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Lynn. It's a pleasure being with you and your audience.
Now, Frigo King began as a family business, and you entered the company during a pivotal moment. What was the turning point that moved you from supporting the business to truly leading it?
Well, I think that was kind of natural because it was not some planned, but natural because some personal issues. My father-in-law, who started the company, unfortunately, he suffered an accident. And for that reason, not for a good planning moment to get this passage from him to us, my wife first went to the company to take care. And on that moment, we are having a baby, so she needs support. And then I went to the company and I like it, and the rest is this history, this beautiful history that we are building together, me and her.
Wow. So it wasn't a planned circumstances, is what I'm understanding. You kind of wound up there circumstantially because of your father-in-law's accident. And
Yeah.
was it an industry that you'd had experience with before that, or it's something you just stepped into brand new?
No, he had experience on the history in industry. He was partner in a company that used to make the refrigerated boxes. He brings some technology for the boxes and for the equipment from his trips to Germany. My wife's family is ancestral on Germany, so it was very linked to that technology and culture. So he bring it and he had an idea, or he understood that the equipment may be business itself. It doesn't need to be together with the boxes. And he, on 2003, he understood that that's the path. He organized in 2003. And in 2005, we started the Frigo King company, or he started the Frigo King company. But very soon was my wife who was in front of the business.
Okay, so it's shortly thereafter. Now, you described the early days as almost a garage company. What were the first capabilities you built that made global growth possible? Was it people, product, processes, or mindset?
I think that the competition and the mindset. When we started as that garage company, very small, few employees, I think 6, 7 employees, not more than that, I understood that we will be very easily beaten by Chinese companies that will start business. They were trying to start business in Brazil with the very low prices. On that very moment, I understand that we need to choose a path, and we choose the path of service and quality, because that is where Chinese companies, they cannot compete. They have lower prices, but they do not offer usually quality. And when they can also bring quality, they do not provide service, because this is a kind of cultural. They sell the product for lower prices, but they do not think about the customer. And we understand that going to on this way, through this path, we were able to build something more reliable. And I also understood on early 2006 that we need to go to other countries to compete against the Chinese before they start really having business here in Brazil. And we went, so we choose our countries closer to us, like Argentina, Uruguay, Paraguay, Chile, went there to compete against the Chinese, the Koreans, and I think that you did a pretty good job doing that. And we faced some brands that were strong on that market, and we could manage to sell an equipment that is a little bit more expensive. But in the end of the day, the difference in terms of support that you can give, and support not after market the service, support sells the company. training support. It's how do we understand the customer needs to provide the best solution, and equipment, it works or runs through 10 years. If you choose the wrong equipment, it will become a cost, a very high cost for all those 10 years. Good brands, not the best ones, the good brands, they are basically twice, 3 times more maintenance than a Frigo King. It's not because of the equipment, it's because of that support that you are able to give in the pre-sales and after sales.
Yeah. So I'm hearing that early on, you really identified that it wasn't going to be a winning game to compete on price. So price isn't something that you even considered competing on because, China and the other countries had you beat. But where you could really stand out was on that service and providing better product that lasted longer. So it's really durability and performance instead of price. And so that gave you a leading edge there. So you then slowly moved into other South American countries first?
It was easier going through our neighbors. That's why we choose them. But very fast, people start talking one to another, went to exhibition. In 2012, I think we were in some Central American countries and got 15 countries with equipment running. 15 were able to manage 20 countries and now 28 countries, which is pretty interesting, considering that it's basically all the countries, maybe not Guyana's and two small country in Latin America, but all the countries basically we are attending with the Frigo King equipment.
Yeah. Now, leading in manufacturing often requires balancing speed, precision, and long-term thinking. What personal leadership principles have guided you through 19 years of building and scaling?
Quality, of course, this is the first point in terms of product. Technology, we had a very important discussion in 2014 about how we want to be recognized, and the technology that you put in the product, it was decided that you will be in that way. So since 2016, all of our equipment leaves the factory with a data logger that is standard. There is no extra cost. And this is something that basically everybody charges. And since 2020, you have one of the most advanced systems for technology with a free app that can communicate with the cabin control, send information to the cloud, getting global position. So very advanced, and it's everything for free. We have open source to communicate with some companies that does the tracking for the truck. So it's not a closed system, it's open for them. And of course, also for the people from our team, I understand that we need to improve the product, but we also need to improve who is in front of the customer, developing the idea of how they must serve our customer, how they must offer the best solution. And this is something that is always happening in the company with the leaders, through the leaders to the other people, to the guys from production line, from service, from sales. So in every department, it's very clear that our number one priority is the customer. I have a saying that's very usual in terms of what we need to prioritize. And first, it's always the product on the field with the customer. So if the customer has any needs, this is first one priority. Second, it's what is strategical in the plan. And third is the operational. This is something for everybody in our works. We have many different tasks during the day, many different. If you start in the morning and until the end of the day, your day will completely full of tasks. But if you take a look, few of them, it's really important. So
Right.
when it's very clear to prioritize, we know that the first priority is the customer, and if the customer is the first priority, everything makes easier to to decide and understand. It's working. It's a rule easy to understand, allows us to answer our customer needs faster than any competition that we face in the market in Brazil or out of Brazil, probably also in the United States.
Yeah, you make a good point. It's easy to lose sight of the day and priorities because we just get busy. Like you said, there's so many tasks to do during a day, and it comes down to prioritizing. And if it's really clear in your mind that the customer is at the forefront of those priorities, then it really helps you get into that alignment to prioritize the customers. And like you said, everything else will fall into place. And so I'm also hearing that technology is super important to you. So it's customer service and then technology, always being able to provide products that are at the leading edge that have capabilities that also provide ease of use for the customers and benefits and advantage to the customer. So if you're always innovating and if you're using the latest technology, then you're providing better tools for the customer as well. Now, you said something powerful when we spoke before. Some companies become so large they expect customers to fit the product instead of the company fitting the customer. How do you operationalize personalization at scale without losing efficiency?
This is very important for my business, that idea. We need to understand the customer. Sometimes understanding the customer, it's to listen and just give them the orientation how to use the equipment in a proper way, because it's like an air conditioner. Sometimes people think that if you have a regular air conditioner, you put on some temperature like, I don't know, 60, you make cold faster than if you just put 70 if your goal is 70. And it's not right. That's wrong, because the capacity is that one. You get that time to reach 70 if you put the set point on 70, or I don't know what is your preference. Let's imagine that it's 70 to this example. And the time to reach 70 is the same if you put the temperature on 60 or 70. When we go to the transport refrigeration equipment, the wrong set point may cause damage on for example, you are transporting some butter and you put a colder that's needed, you damage the butter. You cannot do that. Or lettuce, the same. Or if there is some product that you do not damage the product, but you waste more fuel. And this is the basic cost of any component that has the logistics on its core. So when we think about choosing the right equipment, allow the customer save money on the fuel, save money on the goods, because if you choose properly the equipment, you can probably have a better transportation of your products. And sometimes it is made with a good service in terms of sales. I understand that our sales, they are always our sales is a consulting service and not a shelf product. And that's the difference. When we think the product as a shelf product, this is like your home air conditioner. You go to the Walmart, you buy air conditioner, and you just install in your home, and that's it. But you don't have the abilities to know if that air conditioner is the proper one that you need, because there are many variables to check it. And my sales guys, they are trained to understand this easily. So this is not a hard job for them. This is their job. This is in the core of my business, understanding the needs to choose the right product, thinking and save money on fuel, save money on the product, because sometimes you damage if you put colder than it's needed. Especially is to demonstrate to the customer how to work with the product in a way that makes him get the best from the equipment. When you have a shelf product, this is difficult to happen, because first, people from other companies, they are not trained to doing that. they have that product, I have this product, I have to sell for those size of trucks, and I don't care if we'll be transporting some poultry, some milk, some medicine. That's the product. And this is
Yeah.
very bad for our primary customer, that is those logistics company, but also for the end customer like you, that you went to the Walgreens and took some pills for your children, and it requires some care. If you put a temperature colder than needed, you damage that medicine. So it's pretty important, this understanding from customers for the final customer, for the final consumer as well.
Yeah, because it's not really about the product that you're selling, it's about the advantage and the benefits that you're providing the customer. So if you understand what their goal is, which is to transport whatever specific products safely so they arrive at their destination in the best quality possible, part of what you're saying is educating them on how to use your equipment in order to achieve those results. And so
Yeah.
I'm hearing, yeah, that's the main goal. The main goal isn't just for them to pick whatever off the shelf refrigeration system. They have to understand the right system. So you're consulting with them to figure out what they're transporting, what the ideal climate for that specific product is, and then you're helping them understand, you're training them on how to use your product in order to achieve those results.
We try to do this usually on sales, but when customer is going to do the purchase, when you are doing the purchase, you become harder to negotiate, right? We are trying to get some advantage. This is part of the business. We are there. If I'm buying something personal, I'm the same. And we know that sometimes the customer do not open everything for the people on sales. And that's why you have the corporative training. In Portuguese is Universidade do Frio, what is in literal translating, it's like a cold university. We talking about corporative training in the United States. And we have a specific training that is how to use your Frigo King, that for that customer that already bought. So we are not doing that to make the sale. The sale is done. He already bought the equipment. He's using the equipment. So there is a specific training to get the most advantage of the use of using a Frigo King. And so this service is provided, of course, to trying to make the sales before, but even after the sales, after we already did it. So it's done.
Yeah.
We keep taking care of that customer. And this is a commitment in the end of the day with my customer success. The idea of he used the best of the equipment, and one of our main goals is an equipment that give less headache for my customer. All the equipments, transport equipments, you have compressor, you have the mounting, all the vibration, problem of service. So it's all the same. But in the end of the day, I want to offer the best pill for his headache. So fast service, less time on the maintenance. I understand that that time that my customer has, or the transport refrigeration customer has, the truck stopped, it's a day that that cost, it's getting higher and higher, because you need to rent another truck, and sometimes you have financing, so you are paying your financing for the new truck, you are paying a rental truck, you have insurance on the truck that is in the service and the rental, problem with your employees. So it's a lot of problems.
Yeah.
1 week extra of a truck that is in the service may represent the price of a small equipment. So it's a lot of money.
Yeah.
And okay.
Yeah, like I've heard, or I've often said, it cheap often costs you more in the end. So it's expensive to buy cheap or to go the cheap route.
That's the philosophy.
Exactly. Now, you gave a clear example of design philosophy also, which is fewer parts, stronger construction, and products that don't fail in the field. Where do you see competitors compromising most often, and how does that show up in real-world uptime?
When we think about the components, I cannot say that my main competitors, especially in the United States, they are using bad components that justify that time that they lose. I think that is really the service, and that idea that which is important is that very large companies and for the small ones, they have to take a line to get the service, and the shelf product in terms of the not receiving the right product for the application, which means that will cost more in service because many times you need more time to repair because that component, basically all the mechanical components, we think about time, but it's not lifetime in it's in days, it's in hours running. So if I work more, that hours will be done in less time. It may have a year to run the hours of compressor or 5 years. If I choose the right equipment, I can last for 5 years and not need to go to maintenance and exchange or repair in 1 year and a half. This is what I think that you are doing different in every country that we are working. That idea, if you see my list that you are just starting in the United States and it's smaller than Brazil, I think that you are offering 12 or 14 models against my competitors less than five. And that many, many models is not to confuse, is to find the right equipment for the operation. Have something that can last longer than my competitor. That's the final goal.
Right. And how many models do you offer of your product?
22.
22. Okay. So 22 models. So it really is about consulting with them, finding
Yeah,
about the size of their truck, their container, and then finding out what they're transporting and then consulting on the best fit for their
yeah.
needs. Yeah.
Until the end of this year, we will be reaching 25.
Oh,
So
okay. So
we
that's
just keep expanding and trying to find uh, every time more and more those specific application to attend the customer needs.
So learning from your customer, getting their feedback, figuring out what their needs are, and then modifying your equipment or creating another version that fits those specific needs.
Yeah, this is a work that we are doing constantly.
Research and development and innovating new products. Yeah. Now, you've said many brands talk about quality, but don't build into the small things. What does quality with integrity look like inside your manufacturing process and supplier decisions?
I have a very interesting example because the first time that we faced that, I didn't understand. I was talking to a guy in the United States in Texas about the components that we suggest him to have in inventory to repair Frigo King. And he asked about condensers. And he showed me that he has a full inventory of condensers from my competitors. And I didn't understand because we do not face that situation of a need to change a condenser very often to just have that component. It happens sometimes if you have an accident or something like this. And we were concerned about having excess of inventory. If I only think about my business, it will be a sale of a
Mm,
part. But if I want to have strong partners, it's better if he pays for what he needs, not having old inventory. So, and I try to understand, and this is basic for us since we started, that we need some protection for the breeds and use a mesh since ever. And it's simple, it's cheap, takes time to put, yeah, but it's cheap, not
mhm.
big deal. And my competitors for that specific model, they do not use it. So for them, the idea of changing the condenser is business. For me, it's uptime, so not good.
Yeah.
This is a very small example to show this is an option during the development of the equipment that it's obvious for me.
Mhm.
We need to save the product, not sell components, I think that's a good example that can explain a little bit of that.
Right. Yeah. So it's not just about your pushing a product in the inventory you have, but if you identify a need or an issue, it's going in and creating a solution that's actually going to serve the needs of the client. Now, you pioneered My Frigo King, a free app for remote monitoring using the driver's smartphone instead of requiring a separate paid data line. What problem were you solving, and why was free a strategic decision?
I understand that the connected equipment is the future. About 10 years ago, I had that view. And since then, we start to work in a solution. What some competitors, they are doing in the market, they trying to compete to tracking device. And okay, I understand they are trying to make money with the service. And 10 years ago, that was something that was very strong on the business magazines, trying to get a SaaS or something like this to improve your income. But I never believed that system as a new income source. I believe that it could support me to get information to provide better and better solutions for the future. And that view from 10 years ago, this is very important now on this new era when the database, it's like a new oil, new petrol, new gold, because I have a 10 years database basically now, because I never charged for that and everything is available to make improvement in the equipment.
Mm.
First of all, I understood that the SaaS was not the way. Second, I will understood that moment, and I still believe that I'm not able to compete to the track devices. Their core business is that they can offer much more than I can. I can offer to see temperature, to change the set point, to know the position, but the tracking can support my customer to save fuel, to save tires, to avoid some problem with the employees, with the law. So in Brazil, there is the safety because there is some robbery, so they can provide some solutions on that, and I cannot provide that. I'm providing another kind of solution. So we go through two paths. First, for those companies that don't have money to pay for the tracking device, they got my system for free.
Hmm.
It's better what I can offer than have nothing. They can check
Okay.
the temperature, can check the position, can change the set point, and some other features that are more important for us than for them.
Yeah.
And for the large companies who can hire the tracking device, the system, it's open. They can get the signal, and they can integrate to their system, and that tracking device can read all the information on the equipment and consolidate in just one database. And it doesn't invalidate my own system because they can work both together. On the tracking device, they got informations in the equipment itself, and I got informations in the app on the cabin control, so they can run together, no problem.
Yeah. Yeah, that I like that philosophy. So instead of creating a software solution that was another revenue stream, basically, you chose to have an open integration system that would encourage customers to connect their system to their broader fleet platforms. And that would give you a lot more information, data that would not only help them in the operations but give you the information that you need in order to continue to innovate and become more, efficient and effective in your own solutions.
Yeah.
And yeah. And so instead of creating that closed system that limited the adoption, you opted for the open system to encourage adoption and get wide data instead of just the limited data from the larger service providers who could afford it.
And you have that documentation, any tracking device in the world. If you wanted to connect with Frigo King, we just supply. No big
Hmm.
deal.
Hmm. And you're developing battery integrated refrigeration with solar support, reducing battery weight compared to traditional trailer systems. What's your vision for electric refrigeration, and what has to change for it to scale globally?
I think that electrical there is no way back on that. The equipment that we develop, it's focused on very small trucks. For trailers, it's a little bit different. We are not going through the trailers now. We are starting. So now talking for the small ones. And the small trucks, there is the problem that it's always opening and closing doors. And comparing to the trailer, it's this operation is much more difficult in terms of consume of energy, because if you have product that enter in the right temperature, you place the equipment on that right temperature. The only heat that you need to exchange is that heat that was changing through the panels, but it's a panel, it's a polyurethane, so that's not too much heat entering that box. You do not use a lot of energy doing that to keep that temperature. So there are some solutions for trailers using solar panels. But our job for small, it's much more difficult. I don't have such great area, small ones, small trucks, and always opening and closing doors. So always open, enter heat, and I need to get that heat out very fast. So it's a very, very hard job. We did a very good product that is the eFlex, and to allow in the market, usually they go for 12 volts compressor, which means to get the power, you have a very high current or you do not get the power. And they do that to connect on the battery of the truck or van, which is a problem because there is no such current available. Went to the PET on a 48 volt equipment, which means that we can get more power, lower current, and a battery that we can supply ourselves. A lithium battery, so very advanced, a good system, BMS system that is for safety. And since we do not use the truck battery, it's our own battery, we can support our own solar panels. And according the size of the roof, according the operation, we can reach something that is almost sustainable or even sustainable. We have an example. Our first prototype, we applied in a city called Natal here in Brazil. It's very north of Brazil, but it is in a region there is a lot of sun all the time. We installed in April, and we are in January talking today, so almost 1 year, 10 months that is installed, and it never need to be recharged. Only the solar panels recharge the equipment, which is pretty impressive.
Yeah, that's impressive.
For the future, and we have a job in my engineering department that is checking new technologies. I understand that we need two things to get those equipments for bigger trucks or to all the equipment sizes. First, it's solar panels with more power generation. When we started these eFlex, the studies that solar panels that are flexible, that we can bend, could barely reach 100 watts. On the first test, we started with 200 watts. Now we have with 500 watts flexible.
Wow.
So it changed everything. If I can use a 500 watts solar panel to its 1 kilowatt, it's much better. Maybe in a few years, we can reach 3, 4, 5 kilowatts, and it will allow us to get more and more models to this electrification with not such big prices. The other thing, of course, is the battery, because the battery is the problem in terms of price. The equipment is more expensive because of the battery. So if the battery starts to become every time cheaper, which I do not believe that much, but let's imagine that is a possibility, or on the same price and same size, getting more capacity, or both situations together, of course, we also can get more and more power, and with more power, bigger equipment and solution for more sizes. And I think that it will be happening, especially the part of more power, not price of battery, but the same battery with more power, which is good.
Yeah.
and the solar panels every time more powerful. I think that you are going through that way. We
Hmm.
also are studying some hybrid solution, trying to connect some alternator or something like this. But personally, I think that it's too complicated for maintenance, and I don't
Mm.
like solutions that will cost more in maintenance for my customer, and that's why I think that it's not the way. And the alternator usually runs integrated to the wheel, or the, I don't know if in English is cardan, I don't know if it's the right word, but where the transmission is made, the power transmission is made. This is something basic. We do not create the energy, you transform it. So uh,
Hmm.
if it's a fuel truck, I getting the energy from the fuel and becoming electric. So there is no sense. I don't believe in that concept. If it's an electric truck, this is already in the truck battery, so I lose autonomy. Because
Right.
that solution that you are offering can be applied on both situations, on the electric truck, on the electric vehicle,
Hmm.
increase autonomy because do not take energy from the truck or van. On the diesel one or petrol, gasoline, you do not put in a compressor on the engine. So you say fuel. It's equipment that you can get all the benefits of the electrical equipment, and not something that may cost more in the end of the day for my client.
Yeah, exactly. No, exciting innovations. That's great. Now, you're being intentional about the US market, building a service partner network before introducing large equipment. What does service readiness mean to you, and how do you choose and train partners to protect the brand?
We have a schedule for that. The first job now is trying to find who are able to support Frigo King. At this first time, we are trying to find partners, people that have company who are already in the market and don't want a service that duopoly that you have in North America, because there are only two companies that basically they have a good product, but the same benefit and the same problems. And there are some independent companies that make service. I'm looking for them to service us. This is the first step. We are looking for them. That's it. We are just looking and making some list of who are available and who are interested to work with us. The second step, I will start my corporative training in the United States with someone that will be hired to do that. And so probably we'll be inviting them or visiting them and training them online. This is the way we are successfully doing in Brazil and Latin America. We have a platform for online education, the same that some technical course or universities use. So very robust, very good platform. And we can do online, but we also can do in something in person in the United States. This is the idea of the second point. We are very flexible in terms of inventory. We do not require to buy components from Frigo King, but to service Frigo King, you need to use components for certain quality. So
Right.
there is, in terms of compressors, so we use an American brand called 𝐏𝐶, but you also can use another American called Sand. And if my service use one of them, that's good, no problem, because it's basically high standard quality both. My competitors require to buy from them, and they overprice it.
Mm.
And when they overprice the components, the customer will pay more, which is not the best solution. The idea, I don't want to make money selling parts. I want that my customer be satisfied with my product and last longer. It's more
Yeah.
simple.
Yeah, and I hear that your commitment still to the customer, putting the customer first, so you're looking for partners who can provide the service to keep your equipment running and satisfy the customer long term again. So it's really finding people who are in alignment with your values and serving the customer. Yeah. So Marcos, looking ahead 3 to 5 years, what does success look like for Frigo King and Power Mobile in the US and globally? Product roadmap, service footprint, and customer impact?
First of all, we have the Zeus equipment that is for trailers that we are launching this year here in Brazil. Looking for the next years, I expect a success on this product, which means that we will increase our business in Brazil and Latin America in certain part of the market that we don't have a share yet. And what I understand is that the market it's demanding a new, very good and reliable equipment, and we are offering that. This year, it's been launched here, and I believe we'll be ready in 3, 4, 5 years top to get that into the United States, the equipment with all the barriers already broken, especially in terms of service. And when I think about this service network that you are starting to build in the United States, it's because in that time and the time how long it will take to start with the 𝐏𝐶 equipment in the United States, it's how long it will take until I get this full national coverage, which I predict 5 years. We started last year, so 4 years ahead now. This is our goal, get this national coverage, because I cannot offer a product before getting the service network ready. And this is very clear for me, for my team, and for the people that I talk to when I introduce the company.
Yeah.
I also understand that the measure of the success of this job in the United States is starting a company in the United States. This is always my idea. This is not related for any new thing from politics or tariffs and all those things that are in the newspaper. This is in my business plan since the beginning. Since I reached some number of equipments being sold every month in the United States, I have a company producing the equipment in the United States. Now, with the tariffs and the price that you are doing, we are just investing money because you're not making money. You are not able to make money with the tariffs. But I don't care because in the end of the day, that prices, they were not made thinking in sending equipment from Brazil to the United States. But the prices were made considering produce, manufacture into the United States. So means success for me in the next year. In the United States, having the company and be prepared to launch the 𝐏𝐶, and in Brazil, get a good share of the trailer market with the 𝐏𝐶, and Brazil and Latin America. This is my main goals, to understand that we could reach with what we are planning, what is strategical, and this is what you are looking for.
Yeah. Exciting things coming up. I'm looking forward to watching your journey, and yeah, very exciting. Well, Marcos, thank you for sharing the Frigo King story, how you choose durability and uptime over price, expanded globally, and building digital capabilities that make refrigeration smarter and more reliable for fleets. For listeners who want to learn more about Frigo King, and especially those interested in cold chain innovation and service partnerships, where can they go to connect with you and your team?
FrigoKing.com. You can find all information, and since you send any message, me or someone from my team can answer and give all the support that the customer needs.
Great. And to everyone listening, if you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe and tune in for the next conversation on Industry Ignited. Until next time, stay bold, stay curious, and keep igniting industry.